Good morning, sir, and class. My name is Napoleon Campos, and I'm going to give you a brief presentation on augmented reality applications in modeling and simulation. This is my tech talk. Augmented reality is a technology that could be potentially very disruptive to the defense modeling and simulation realm. I focused this presentation more so on the broader defense applications than on the Defense Health Agency specifically. This is my agenda. I'm going to really define what augmented reality is and what it's not. Then we're going to go through why and how augmented reality technology will be disruptive. And then I'm going to touch on some strengths and some weaknesses. And then we're going to summarize it all up. So this is a definition of augmented reality that I found on the web, and I really liked because I found it encompassing, and I'll let you read it. But basically, augmented reality is a blending of digital elements with a real-world environment. And that could be done in a number of ways. It's historically been primarily visual, but the more you can appeal to someone's senses, the more realistic the experience is. So there could be auditory stimuli, there could be physical stimuli in the sense of haptic feedback, which is like a vibratory sensation, and there can also be smells. What augmented reality is not, it's not virtual reality. And virtual reality is when you can't see your environment that you're in, and you have goggles on, but all that you see are digital elements. You don't see your real world environment. And combining the two has been difficult because the technology is barely catching up and has made it challenging to integrate augmented reality into the mainstream and have us be able to use it in the defense realm and in our normal daily lives. So this is a timeline of augmented reality's development. No presentation is complete without a brief history lesson, right? Well, in 1968, the first head-mounted display was created, and it was a huge clunky thing that was suspended by a huge metal arm that was so dominating that it was termed the Sword of Damocles. And the next progress that was made was a lab that was created in 1975, and it was a place that you could interact with your environment through some screens. But then fast forward another 15 years, and really the term was coined for the first time, augmented reality, because you're not confined to a certain space, and it created its own field that companies could use open source innovation and all contribute to. Some of the military uses, for example, the Air Force in 1992 created a immersive system that finally was small enough that you could leave a place and you're not confined to it to interact with the environment there. In 98, NASA had a spacecraft that navigated through practical fields with augmented reality. And what we're going to in the future, a lot of times its development has been slow because the technology just wasn't there to support a full augmented reality experience. For example, the connectivity wasn't fast enough. So if you can imagine walking into a room and you see what you see normally, and an image is slowly, downloading so that you can interact with it, that's not going to work These things need to be in real time, and they need to be fast. And finally, with 5G networks, a real high fidelity, high intensity image or HD image is going to be present for us to see and interact with. And then it's projected that by the end of the decade, the whole augmented reality field is going to be worth greater than $75 billion. And that market is just getting started. The commercial industry development, it's used open source innovation to have, all these different companies. And if you look through this list, you could see that it's not just one field that are creating this better product for everyone. And as you look through, there's some folks from the game industry, there's folks from the photography industry, BMW, VW, the automotive industry, and of course the software companies and the hardware companies that have all the mobile devices and create the mobile devices so folks can do the development of the software. So after 2000, things have just taken off, and it's getting faster and faster developing. In 2010, Microsoft introduced the Kinect motion sensing devices, and that made interactions with the environment that much more real. In 2013, Google created the Google Glass, and this was just a kind of a prototype, but yet it cost well over $1,000. Fast forward to today, and these devices are even much more sophisticated, and they're going for over $3,000. In 2015, Microsoft created the first HoloLens headset, and the second one came about in 2019. When that happened, it caught the attention of the government, and these logistic contracting agencies saw opportunity that could further advance the next generation warfighter with a goggle that has a heads-up display and has augmented reality that can communicate with other soldiers and other teams and make it that much more of a comprehensive system. That didn't come without some controversy, because now you have scientists and software engineers who are creating products for commercial use, and that's being repurposed to military use. And when you militarize someone, a lot of times, yes, we do humanitarian work, but also in the defense realm, we're also going to combat and inflicting damage. And so that's what caused some of these scientists and engineers who are involved in augmented reality research and development to throw up some objections, because they don't want their work to be used to hurt other people. But the first contract was with Microsoft. I think it was 2021, and it was for a militarized headset, and that was a $20 billion contract. Going along with the hardware, you needed the software and the connectivity. So there was another Microsoft contract for their cloud-based computing, which is what was another $10 billion. So a lot of government funds being pumped into this development as well. But the industry is driving the progress. Apple's getting involved. They created the software development kits for iOS devices. Google created the software development kits for Android devices. And supposedly this year, we're supposed to finally see an Apple goggle or glasses, something with augmented reality built into it, a smart wearable device. Now we're going to get into the why and how augmented reality technology is going to be disruptive to the modeling and simulation field. So I touched on this a bit in the last slides, but the government can repurpose the advancements that are made on the commercial side to its use. And yes, it is controversial, but it can be for a lot of good, especially when we're using it to help prevent injuries to other folks. We can use it for natural disasters, humanitarian missions, and a lot of this innovation has to come from the industry, and it's not just one company that's doing all the research and development, but it's everyone. It's just that when you contract and have big contracts with certain companies, there tends to be a little more controversy. Now this slide is not so busy, but we're continuing on the why and how. And when we're focusing on defense on the wider, broader spectrum, we have to talk about warfare or preventing warfare. And the way we do that is by maintaining superiority. And whether that's air, ground, or water, we have to have an advantage over the enemy. And the augmented reality technology is something that will revolutionize ground warfare. Now we've made advancements in other areas, in our planes and our ships, but on the ground, besides tanks, for the dismounted infantry, not a whole lot has gone on in terms of advancements after the gunpowder revolution and changing from edge weapons to shooting projectiles. Really, the advancements were making them bigger, faster, stronger, and more explosive. But for the private in the foxhole, they're shooting projectiles that are fired from their shoulder or hip, and not much has changed. Really, what advantage we do gain is through surprise and through tactics. But the enemy, reads our doctrine as well, and so we're constantly looking for another area where we can advance. Well, with augmented reality, having headsets is basically taking warfare to the ground warfare for the infantry soldier to the next level, and it's making it so that he can see his own folks. It limits risk to themselves and by friendly fire, and they're able to see and play kind of like a video game. So continuing on, I've already spent some time talking about these big contracts, so I'm not going to continue to cover that in detail here, so I'll go on to the next slide. So this is my last slide about why and how augmented reality is going to be disruptive in the defense, health, and modeling simulation realm. There's a new Army weapon system that's being adopted and fielded. Changes before that, and the M16's been around since the 1960s, and not much advancement had been made. The actual new weapon frame does have some advancements, but the real advancement is going to be in the targeting system, and we've touched on it a little bit. But if you have an advanced sighting system that you're able to almost fire a weapon on target without having to aim it, I mean, that's going to be game changing. You don't have to put soldiers at risk. You don't have to, raise your head up above, a barrier to shoot and to, risk being shot. These heads-up display are going to broadcast all the information from the rifle system. It's going to be like playing a video game, like Modern Warfare, these first-person shooting games that are so popular with the generation, Ys and Zs. So I think it's going to be a huge recruiting benefit if we can get our forces to be able to see all the information that you can see when playing a video game, because that's going to make it really attractive for our younger generations. So I've touched again on a few of these strengths, but I think it's going to be a game changer once we could finally field it. The technology is going to be so far advanced compared to what other militaries will have, and it'll probably stay like that for some time, and so that's your advantage that you're looking for to maintain superiority. And this can assist all types of forces, not just the infantry, but to the armor, and I say even pilots, but they've been doing it more than the rest of us. This is one of my last major content slides. I'll go into some of the weaknesses that augmented reality does possess. It's not perfect, but most of these issues are currently being addressed. So starting with the hardware, from the beginning with the Sword of Damocles, it was just this huge, tube TV from the 60s, and it was strapped to a person, and it would swivel around, but it was not really workable, I would say. And then there's the issue with the screen, with having to look at a screen with the glasses, for example. You get a Virgin's accommodation problem, where the screen is in front of the object that's you're trying to look at it at a distance, and that difference in Virgin's and accommodation causes a problem. It causes excessive eye strain and fatigue. So that's going to be a problem once we finally implement some of the augmented reality wearable hardware. Also, it requires the use of batteries, and still even the current prototypes, they mount to a helmet, and kind of like using the night vision, it causes neck strain and problems with accommodation. So this is no different, but takes it to the next level. And then you deal with the connection speeds. I think we have enough problems in our local facilities with Wi-Fi and with cellular connection, that this really has to be overhauled, especially if they're planning to use it in the field. That's gonna cause a lot of delays, and can make it prone for a soldier not to use the technology if it just doesn't work right. Just another thing on this slide, I wanted to comment on the picture that I posted here. We get so involved with our devices that Pokemon is a product of Nintendo in 2016. cause problems with folks running into things. And this particular example, a gentleman had drove into a police car, and he was playing Pokemon and wasn't paying attention, and he got into a little bit of trouble for that. But there's a lot of distractions when looking at screens, and we tend to interact with our devices more than we interact socially. That's another major problem with augmenting reality. So in summary, it's a marvelous technology. Augmented reality is going to be a game changer, and it's going to disrupt defense modeling and simulation in every respect, I believe, in the field, focusing on soldiers who are at the front lines. Of course, in medicine and the Defense Health Agency, it's going to change how we simulate and how we practice and how we learn. That's a discussion that I am going to have on a different project of mine. This one I was focusing primarily on defense on the wider, scheme. And don't if there's one takeaway from this presentation, it's that it's its own separate field. It's not virtual reality. It's like real life with added elements that makes it more interesting in some ways. And this can be both a benefit and a drawback when looked at from the technology standpoint. But that's my talk for the day. Appreciate everyone's time, and I thank you very much. This is how you might want to get a hold of me. I posted my email and my cell phone. You can text me. I'm currently out in Hawaii, and I will be actually retiring at the end of this year. So, but I'm definitely available anytime, and I'm going to be involved with modeling and simulation, and hope to use augmented reality to benefit the practice of anesthesia, because I'm an anesthesiologist. But yeah, those plans are to follow. Thanks everyone for your time, and looking forward to seeing some of these presentations. All right, thanks again. Bye-bye.